10,000 fight fans have been attracted to this vast Trump Plaza Convention Center to see if Mike Tyson can justify his assertion that he is the greatest fighter on this planet. Good morning. Well, the undisputed world heavyweight champion's challenger this time is Carl "The Truth" Williams, a 29-year-old who's having his second shot at a world title. 4 years ago, this 6 feet 4 inch New Jersey fighter came face to face with a Larry Holmes who was then at his peak. The IBF title was at stake, and so sure were the bookies of a Holmes victory, they rated Williams' chances at 50 to 1.
And he clubs hard with the right hand as well, Williams. There it is again and again. And I tell you, this no-hoper is really giving Holmes all the trouble he can handle in this round.
So Williams losing a controversial decision, but only by 1 point. Well, here he comes in as a 12 to 1 underdog to beat the man who shattered Michael Spink's hopes in just 90 seconds in this very arena. And following that demolition, Frank Bruno got his chance, and I'm delighted that he's with us here tonight. Frank, do you wish it was you getting back into that ring with Tyson?
I'm here right now, Dickie, and I get the little urge, you know, in my fist, that is, not in my fist, Dickie, yeah.
They're talking about the fear factor. This certainly wouldn't include you. Some say that many of the heavyweights that have gone in with him are really afraid of him, and they don't believe they've got a chance anyway.
I think Carl Williams has been in with him before, you know, as an amateur, and I've seen the video of it, and he done pretty well. So I think the fear factor's out of his brain at this moment. I think, I'm not too sure. I'm not in his shoes, so I can't really answer for him, Dickie.
Do you think Mike Tyson is invincible, Frank?
Not really. I don't think no man's invincible. You know, there's only one man above there's invincible. You know, you've got to give him a lot of respect, but I don't think no man's invincible.
How do you think that Williams should go about trying to beat Tyson?
It's such a difficult thing because Williams is a boxer, you know. He isn't a power man, but he can outfox him and tie him out. I don't think he can outfox Tyson. I don't think he's got the style to beat Tyson, but it's so difficult to say Williams to beat him, you know. We've got to wait and see, Dickie.
You'd go with Tyson, would you?
Most definitely, but in boxing anything could happen, you know. You can't really write off people, Dickie, you know.
Thank you very much indeed for the moment, Frank. So anyway, the first fighter should be coming into the ring at about 3:15 your time. We're going to take a short break, and after that we shall seek the truth about Welcome back to Atlantic City. Well, certainly the buzz of anticipation is intensifying here as we await Iron Mike Tyson versus Carl "The Truth" Williams. Williams drew in the ring in about 6 minutes' time. So now we can bring you a revealing insight into this man with this profile by Home Box Office.
For most, the streets of South Jamaica, Queens are no place to grow up, let alone in which to develop into a championship athlete. They call this man-forsaken place Crack Alley, and only a few, like Carl Williams, have escaped.
Yeah, I used to tell you to come run with me, but you was into one thing and I was into another.
Right.
That's basically what I'm saying. You was into one thing and I was into another. You know, there's 2 roads in life that you can go down. There's that straight one, that's the hardest road you can go down. And then there's that other one, this short road.
For the first 19 years of his life, Carl Williams took the short road. He flirted with trouble and played basketball day and night. Only his grandmother was around to rein him in. But as Carl matured, he grew frustrated with this lifestyle and, out of anger, began hitting a heavy bag.
People used to say, you got something, you got something. I couldn't see it at that particular time. Whatever I had, to me, it wasn't there. You know, it wasn't until my grandmother died that I really started thinking seriously about doing this.
At an age when most would-be professional fighters are experienced amateurs, Williams was just beginning. He walked 6 miles to the gym each day, out of hell and into a brave new world.
Whatever I was doing at that particular time, years and years ago, you know, I gave it up to become a boxer with no hopes, no aspirations or anything, no future really, but just a lot of hard work and determination.
Fighting out of the tiny O'Connell Park gym, Carl Williams entered the Golden Gloves with just a couple of amateur fights under his belt. Miraculously, he won a title.
Here was this big hulking guy with a piston for a left jab, and he immediately caught my eye. And for a guy that age to start that old and do what he did is certainly an accomplishment.
Flushed with success, Carl moved to suburban White Plains to get further boxing instruction. It was a Spartan existence at first, with Williams living alone in this motel, far enough away from his city friends and city temptations.
This is obviously a different environment, and I think in order for me to be successful, I had to move here to get away from some of my friends and try to more or less concentrate on, you know, being a professional fighter.
In White Plains, Carl developed rapidly as a fighter, gaining valuable ring experience he had missed as a teenager. One sparring partner came down from this gym in Catskill, New York, to spar with Williams, a 17-year-old named Mike Tyson. Memories differ as to what happened.
He jumped on me that particular day, gave me a bloody nose and everything. You know, I was a little, he shook me up because I was a professional with 7, 8 fights. And I was saying to myself, oh my God, I gotta let this amateur come in the gym and do this to me. So I got very angry that night. I went home and thought about it. And the very next day, I came in the gym with a different attitude towards him. I went into the ring and I busted him up.
Well, he sparred when I was 14, 15 years old, and he couldn't kill me then. And now I'm 5 times, 10 times the fighter now.
Contrasting views on who got the better of those sparring sessions 6 years ago, but we found a clip from one of them, and now you can judge for yourself. So, watching that clip with me, Frank Bruno again, and Jim Watt. Jim, is there any relevance from that clip to what we're going to see tonight, do you think?
No, I don't think what happened in that sparring session really means anything. But what could have some bearing? Tyson tends to dominate and intimidate most of his opponents, so maybe the fact that Williams has already shared the ring with him several times, maybe he can draw some experience and some confidence from that. It's not a new experience, although it'll be a different experience tonight, maybe, but the actual spar itself doesn't really mean anything.
Some experts are divided about Williams' chances. Some say that he's going to be brushed aside, and others say that he has the ability to stretch Tyson.
I think a lot of that depends on his temperament. Can he cope with it, or will he freeze the way Spinks did? If he can keep himself out of trouble for the first couple of rounds, maybe get some sort of rhythm going. I think he has the talent, he has the height and the reach to give Tyson some problems, but definitely not enough to defeat him.
Let me bring Frank in. We'll talk about the height and reach, because he really is probably about 6 or 7 inches taller, and he's got a hell of a big reach. How's Tyson going to handle that, do you think, Frank?
I'm not too sure. I think he'll stay close to him, you know what I mean? For the first couple of rounds, as Jim said, he'll be onto him like a harbour shark, you know, and right onto him and keep onto him. So it should be very interesting for the first couple of rounds, as if it goes that long.
Do you think he has the ability to withstand the power of Frank Tyson? That really is the key to it all. Frank Tyson, Mike Tyson, not Frank Tyson, the old fast bowler.
Well, I think the problem, probably his chin is the big question mark. Williams has been shaken by Tillis. He's actually been stopped by Weaver, so I don't think there's any way, if Tyson gets through, Williams can hope to take the punches. What he has to do is try to cut the punishment down, maybe smother Tyson's work, but if clean punches land on Williams' chin, then there's no way he can take them.
Since he met you, he's put together an entirely new team now for Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
The Tyson team, as he call it, or Team Tyson. Do you think that's going to have any effect upon Mike Tyson?
I think he feels at home with them. They're his old friends from Catskill Mountains, and Don King, as he classes a friend. As long as he feels contented in his heart, it's what he feels. No matter what anybody says about him, everybody's been talking about him from day one, you know, so he just blocks it all out, and as long as he's happy within his mind, that's what really counts.
Would you agree with that, Jim?
Yeah, I would agree with that. The main thing, in Tyson's last fight with Frank, he had a lot of problems outside the ring, and he had to cope with those. So now, although maybe it's not the best preparation, I don't think he has the same distractions outside the ring that he has. He's probably in better shape, better frame of mind. So if he thinks the team is right, then the team is right.
Well, I think he's going to be in. Carl Williams is going to be in the ring very, very soon. But how long do you think this fight's going to go? It's difficult to ask for this kind of prediction.
Yeah, well, so much depends on just how much actual courage Carl Williams has when it comes down to it. How is he going to cope with the fact he's sitting in the dressing room now knowing he's facing Mike Tyson? He knows what Mike Tyson has done to every other contender. So what's in his mind at this moment? If he is positive and he really feels he has the ability to get out there, put up a show, and maybe cut down on Tyson's assets, then he can put on a show. But we will not know that until we see the look on his face as he moves into the ring. If you remember, Michael Spinks said plenty of things before the fight. We really expected Spinks to put on a good show. I thought it would have taken 5 or 6 rounds to get to Spinks. It took 91 seconds. So I think a great deal depends on Williams' temperament.
Well, here we see the man we're talking about now, Carl "The Truth" Williams, making his entry. This is the day he's been waiting for, and we'll soon be able to see just how well prepared he is. You certainly are going to go with Tyson, Frank. How quickly do you think that he can dispose of this man?
I'm not too sure. Carl Williams is a sort of like typical typical sort of like American fighter. He's confident. He strives and all this. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't just brush him off that easy. You know what I mean? Because you watch him now, you love all this. You know what I mean? And he's been here before, and now this is his big chance, and he won't let it slide. And I hope it's a good fight. You know, because a lot of people come far, especially me. I've come across a long way to see the fight. You know, and spent a lot of money as well, Dickie.
You were talking about Michael Spinks. When Spinks came into the same ring, Jim, he looked really quite terrified. I mean, he did look very apprehensive, didn't he?
He had the look of a condemned man, which is exactly what he was. But thankfully, that's not the case with this opponent. You see, he's enjoying the occasion. He's putting on a show. He's loosening up. He's walking around the ring. I mean, Spinks didn't even want to take his dressing gown off when the time came. But this man looks a little bit different. He looks as though he's pleased to be there. So hopefully that'll carry on when the first bell sounds, and he'll give us a show, hopefully 4, 5, 6 rounds.
Well, I know it's about 4 years ago, but he did put up a tremendous show against Larry Holmes when Larry Holmes was at his peak.
Yeah, that was a good show. That's probably his career best performance. A couple of shaky performances since then, but I think tonight he's going to have to do things that he's never done before. He's going to have to do things better than he's ever done before. Looking at him now, he looks as though he can rise to the occasion, but he's really going to have to produce something more special than he's ever produced, and hopefully he can do it, and we'll end up with a show.
He's emerged from the same kind of background as Mike Tyson, Frank, a disadvantaged background, and he's really concentrated very hard on his career as a professional fighter.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think this fight, Mike Tyson can make as many mistakes as he wants, but Carl Williams cannot make one mistake at all, you know what I mean, for this fight, not one at all.
What's he feeling now? You've had this experience yourself, Frank.
What is he feeling? It's so difficult. Sometimes you're just pumped up. You've been waiting for this for such a long time. You've been away from home. You're hungry. You're just concentrating and thinking about Mike Tyson, not worrying about the crowd, you know? He's a professional man. All professionals know what they've got to do. You see him pumping up himself now.
Right, well, I think we're just about ready to see the undisputed world heavyweight champion, Mike Tyson. He's going to be coming through that exit any minute now. There's a terrific build-up of excitement here. And let us now join, here he is, let us join Reg Guttridge at ringside.
Well, there's the man then that he really has taken this fight game by storm, the most talked about athlete of his time. Not always in his favour. I certainly agree with Jim Watt and Frank Bruno about the attitude of Carl Williams. On the other hand, well, he's talked a good fight, but let's hope he's not as good a pugilist as he is publicist anyway. This man, his definition of his body, I think, is a little better than I've seen him with Bruno last time. As Jim Watt said, he did have a few problems. He's coming at 15.9 1/4. He was only 15.8 actually for Bruno. 219 1/4. Just look at the team, Tyson. They really can't get to him closely enough. Almost like a towel poncho on there. There he is, throws it off. Meanwhile, Carl Williams, almost like a caged tiger there. It's a very humid time here in Atlantic City. But despite some adverse publicity, I mean, this fella is such a magnet. There's a referee, Randy Newman, former New Jersey boxer. He fought Joe Frazier, actually. And he's been refereeing quite a bit now in England. Glenn McCrory Lumumba and Dave McCauley and Stuart McKenzie. So now, the talking's over, as always. And we've got Mike ready to rumble Buffer in there, waiting for his cue to introduce the fighters as if they need introduction. Now, he's a big, tall guy, this Carl Williams. The nickname, The Truth, he gives you several versions of it, actually. And he says, he remembers he hit a fellow with a good shot once, and he went down and he said, oh, he said, that punch, I tell you, that was the truth. That's kind of an in gag. It's not a bad nickname for him, actually. And Carmen Graziano, you may see the grey-haired man next to him there, is 65 years old. He's been in the game 45 years, and he's done a very good psychological job on Williams, but it all depends on the chin. Mike Weaver knocked him over, but he kept getting up. He was actually beaten on that 3 knockdown rule. He was on his feet when it was stopped. And James Quick Tillis, earlier on in his career, when Tillis was a very useful fighter at the time, he had him down. But he gets back, and there he is, Carmen Graziano. He worked with Joey Giardello when he came to England to fight Terry Downs. And all the so-called dignitaries then, aren't they, from the WBC, WBA, IBF, they're all lining up with their little belts there to get in the picture all the time. Booted and suited for the occasion. So he storms around like the old gladiator he is, isn't he, Tyson? Nothing puts this man out. 16 wins in the first round. And, well, there was a few, as they say in American boxing lingo, a few patsies along the way, but he's since done it against good fighters. And he's a great historian of boxing too, Mike Tyson. He really understands the game and can discuss it from years ago. And he said, I think I'd have been too big for people like Jack Dempsey. So, but had I fought Ali, if I could have beaten him, then I know I would have been the best heavyweight of them all. So the little casual stare as he goes past. You see, Williams has said from the off, I don't know what we're talking about, the tough guy stuff. In fact, my upbringing was even tougher than Tyson's, because he was under Custamado's wing that just turned 14 years of age. So he behaved himself. But he said, I really had a tough time. Good looking physique he's got, hasn't he? 6'5", and he weighs 15 stone 8. So there's only a pound and a quarter in it. Doesn't really matter at this level. There's the introductions then.
Good evening and welcome to Atlantic City's Convention Hall by way of Donald Trump's Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino on the boardwalk here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Tonight, Don King Productions and the Trump Plaza present the World Heavyweight Championship. This bout is approved and sanctioned by the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board, Larry Hazard Sr., Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner Lawrence Wallace, and the chairman is Jerry Gormley. The bout is governed by the rules and regulations of the World Boxing Association, represented by Dr. Elias Cordova and James J. Binns. It is also sanctioned by the International Boxing Federation, President Robert W. Lee, and the World Boxing Council, President Jose Suleiman. The 3 judges selected by the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board for this bout are Rocky Castellani, Chuck Giampa, and Richard F. Murray. Chief physician at ringside, Dr. Frank B. Dawkins. Also in attendance, Dr. Eric Wormser and Dr. Charles Wilson. The timekeeper for the bout is Roosevelt Gilbert, and counting for the knockdown seconds, Steve Smoger. And now, before we get started, I would like to introduce the gentleman in the ring at this time, a man who's responsible for bringing over 20 championship bouts to Atlantic City over the last 2 years. In addition to being the world's most famous entrepreneur, he is a best-selling author and our host this evening, Mr. Donald Trump. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey, let's get ready to rumble! 12 rounds of boxing for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. The referee for this bout is Randy Newman. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with red trim, he weighs an even 218 pounds from Muskegon, New Jersey. His professional record, 22 victories against only 2 defeats, 17 knockouts to his credit, and 14 of those 17 KOs within 5 rounds or less. Ladies and gentlemen, the #1 heavyweight challenger in the world today, Carl the Truth Williams. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the solid black trunks and weighing in at 219 1/4 pounds from Catskill, New York. His professional record is unblemished with 36 consecutive victories, 32 knockouts, 28 KOs in 5 rounds or less, and 16 in the first round alone. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the undisputed, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson.
Well, tremendous cheers here, there's no doubt about that. He's such a popular fighter, Mike Tyson. Now, there's been a sort of high lemming content, really, in most of Tyson's challenges. Let's see now how... Can this fella really cope with him? Can he use his boxing ability, which we saw on ITV when he fought Larry Holmes? It was a very good performance and a very close loss indeed to Holmes, who then had quite a lot of fight left in him. So clear the ring, and those officials know how to get out of there when trouble starts. But good heavyweight referees, he can handle these fellas okay, strength-wise anyway. He'll rush straight across here, Tyson, that's a certainty. And remember that they boxed 2 or 3 times in the gymnasium when Tyson was coming up. But as Jim Watt and Frank Bruno both agree, there was very little relevance in that. Oh, he's standing there. He wants to trade with him, Williams. I'm not sure that's good business. Good to see a challenger come out like that, Jim, and be willing to trade.
Yeah, a good positive start from Williams, but I think I would feel the safer for him if he would back off and have a look at Tyson first of all. This is a completely different Tyson from the last one he shared the ring with.
Eight championship fights, remember, Tyson. 7 have been covered by ITV.
Well, the first change I've noticed in Tyson, he normally comes into the ring soaking in sweat. He hasn't done that tonight. I wonder if that's a change of plan with it.
Oh, what a left hook. Well, he certainly wasn't cold, Jim. In fact, it looks like Carl Williams has been knocked cold in the first round. Is he going to count him out or let him go on? He's done well to get up. No, he stopped it. Well, there's some booing going on, but they didn't take that punch. Carl Williams is arguing. He got caught with a peach of a punch there, and, well, at least he's got a cuddle afterwards, Jim. Now, nobody really could have expected that. Well, I didn't have my watch going at that point because it only just started, obviously. And I wonder if that's beaten the Michael Spink's 91 seconds.
It wouldn't surprise me if it has, Reg, but we knew the challenger's chin wouldn't stand up to it. He had to keep his chin out of distance, and he chose not to do that. He chose to stand and show everyone how brave he was, and it's worked against him. The first clean punch that landed has not come out of there.
Well, I make that, Jim, about 1:20. Just he's having an argument with him, Carmen Graziano, the trainer. I think you should have let him go on.
Well, I think the referee did the right thing because Williams stood up and he just stood there looking, and you could see his legs had gone. He hadn't really moved. He didn't put his hands back up. It didn't look to me as though he could have continued. Another couple of punches could have done serious damage. The referee was closer than anybody, and I think he did the right thing.
Well, he's saying I'm okay there. I mean, I'm always on the referee's side, Jim, and obviously you've been in there and tasted it. Now, let's have another look at this now.
Well, it was a beautiful punch, bang on the chin. Now you can see the way he goes down, first of all, loses all control. Then you can see the actual time he took to get back up onto his feet again.
Yeah, there it is there. He's got the left hand that he was talking about, but the way he slips inside is he's such a good defensive fighter, Tyson. People forget that. They just think he's a ring animal. He's got a lot of ability to go with that.
So
Once more.
That punch too, it couldn't have landed in a better spot, and you get the full turn of the shoulders, the hips, bang onto the chin. That was a beautiful punch, and the way he went down, you could see there was no way he could throw the effects of that. I mean, people like Larry Holmes could recover from a punch like that, but unfortunately not Williams.
Well, normally in the first round they have a chance of getting over it. Certainly Michael Spinks didn't. But as I said, this fella's recuperative powers have been good in the past, but he was nailed there, and I've got to be on Randy Newman's side there. It's better to always have that compassion. There's enough knockers of the fight trade anyway without letting this fella take some more stick. But the crowd are unhappy, and I don't blame them at $500 a piece at ringside, and he doesn't like the look of that, and he's arguing with him again. Well, obviously we've seen worse knockouts than that allowed on, Jim, but that doesn't make it right, does it?
No, it certainly doesn't make it right. The way Williams went over, the time he took to get back up again, the referee had a good look into his eyes. He didn't just make a split-second decision. He had a good look into his eyes as he completed the 8 count, and he knew better than anybody if Williams was ready to continue, and obviously he wasn't.
Well, the thing with Tyson, let's face it, he doesn't only dominate the heavyweight division, he's decimated it as well. Here's Larry Merchant now asking referee Randy Newman.
Standing up, he was leaning against the ropes. I asked him a question, a very simple question. How do you feel? Not for the answer, but to see how he responded. His eyes were blank, his expression was blank, he had no answer.
Is there any chance that he misunderstood what you wanted him to respond to?
I don't think so. Let me tell you why. He's had a lot of professional fights and a lot of amateur fights. When a fighter is knocked down, and I had 38 fights, when a fighter is knocked down, the first thing he wants to prove when he gets up to the referee is that he's in good shape. Number one, he wasn't standing on his feet, he was leaning on the ropes. Number two, he couldn't answer me. And number three, his eyes were dead.
Thank you very much, Randy. And now back to ringside.
All right, thanks very much, Larry, and thank you for pointing out that
Well, there's this usual commotion, isn't there? I mean, it really is like a street carnival here. It looks as though they've all invaded from the famous boardwalk along here where people walk up and down when they've done their money, I suspect. And everybody wants to be in the ring in the fight game these days. At least the photographers are playing the game and staying out. But a lot of dissatisfaction. There always is. But, you know, there was a time when a fellow like Joe Louis, or Louis as we call him in Britain, he was cherished for knocking people out in one round. They thought he was marvellous. But obviously the crowd are now saying, you know, here's Larry Merchant with Mike.
From your point of view, did you see him really dazed?
Well, no, I noticed my trainers were telling me we were slipping and hooking. So when we slip, because usually I come in that slip and I get in there, and that's the hardest part, getting in there, and I never threw the punch. And so we were practicing like a slip. So you're in there, instantaneously, bing, throw the punch. And I did, and I was successful.
What? Were you surprised that he stayed on top of you as much as he did, that he didn't try to move?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I just knew it took it just with a matter of time. I loved it.
So you knew that as soon as he was doing that you were going to get a clean shot sooner or later.
Exactly. And my punches were accurate and pinpoint. And I knew eventually I was going to get him.
He has a reputation for getting hit with left hooks. Were you looking for that opening?
No, I was very confident. I wanted to hit him, catch him with a good right hand. Believe me, my right hand is my favorite punch, but I never catch anyone with it. You know, it's my best punch, and I always hit guys with left hook.
All right, we're going to try to take a look at the
where's the monitor?
At the monitor, if we can find it, so that we can determine what happened.
Champion now.
All right. Okay, it was a clean left hook. Did you? I mean, you sparred with him years ago. We know that it didn't mean anything. Were you surprised that he went so fast?
Well, no, I knew if I catch someone clean, they'll go, regardless who they are. But you know, when the referee he hit him with a shot, it looked like he was able to get up, but I guess the referee called what he saw, because I didn't think he was hurt that bad, but I knew I hit him with a clean shot.
Speculate for me. How long would it have taken you to get him down a second time if the fight went on?
Oh, no problem. I'd have been all over him. Maybe it's better that the referee did stop early. I would have been all over him. That's when I'm most dangerously, when I know I have someone hurt.
For the record, Mike, I don't know if you know it, this fight went a couple of seconds longer than the Spinks fight. So far in this building, in the last 13 months, you've fought about 1 round and 2 fights.
Well, it's good. I like coming in this building. I like being here. And Donald Trump, he don't play around. He pays that money up. And for this fight, Don told me if I knock him out, he'll pay me $100 grand. And I'm looking forward to that $100 grand.
Who? Don is going to pay for you?
Don King, yeah. $100 grand for a knockout.
All right, we all want to be there when that happens.
When is this going to happen?
Right, in the post-press conference.
You want to get to me? Oh, yes. My church can use some of that money. Yes.
All right.
Reverend Henry J. Payton, Holy Trinity Baptist Church.
No doubt.
Let's talk about, all right, now let's talk. You've talked about being in control of your career Tell us what you think is next. Who is next?
Well, I'm just taking it one step at a time. I'll fight anybody, you know what I mean? I don't discriminate from anybody. I'm the best fighter in the world, and there's no man that can beat me.
Does this mean that Holyfield is or is not your next opponent?
Well, he's in my future, but I don't think he's in my immediate future. But come on, Holyfield, don't matter. That's kids' play.
So you think that you'll fight Holyfield like early next year, and you may have 1 or 2 fights before then?
Most likely, but you know what I mean? If they can discuss our things with their people, we can fight in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He caught a quick knockout, I got a quick knockout. We both still need to work. We didn't get any work.
All right. Jose Ribalta was one of the fighters being considered for your next opponent, and he had a dreadful outing in a preliminary tonight. Did that eliminate him?
Well, it looks kind of dreary for him, but you never know. If he have a couple more fights and he cleans up his act, he's always a good prospect.
What about Douglas, who looked a little better, if not great, in another preliminary? He's been mentioned as a possible opponent.
I take all comers. I don't duck any man.
Can we assume that Michael Dokes is one of the prospects?
All comers. Come one, come all, because nobody can get close to me. They're not even close. I'm the best fighter in the world.
There's been discussions that today people from Israel have been offering you money to come and fight there. You've been reluctant to go abroad. Do you think that as a world champion, as someone who says, I'm the best man on the planet, that you will start to fight abroad?
Well, eventually we'll do that, you know what I mean? But like you said, I'm not in a hurry to leave my country, you know what I mean? I love my country. I'm not in a hurry to leave anywhere. But you know what I mean? If things are right, I'll fight anyone. And then
Well, you've heard the views then, the Frank views, isn't it, of Iron Mike, and we'll be back to hear from another big Frank, that's Bruno, and hear what he thinks, and you'll also see a devastating performance from the man who knows, could be a real threat to Tyson, so stay with us.
Welcome back to Atlantic City, and I certainly didn't think we were going to use this camera quite so soon, but when, as Tyson says, you're the best fighter in the world, anything can happen. Here are the two men who were ringside. Frank, let me first of all ask you, do you have any quibbles with the referee's decision there to stop the fight?
It's so difficult, Dick, you know, if the referee would have let it go on and he would have took some more serious blows, then, you know, we all would have said it's bad for boxing. The referee done what was right at the time, and I think it was right at the time to stop the fight.
You said to me just a short while ago that he looked a bit dicey, actually, at the end of the count.
It was a little bit dicey, and I mean his legs when he got up, but if the referee would have let it go on against a guy like Tyson, then everybody would have started moaning, you know. Everyone's okay. I know it lasted sort of like very short. I'm very gutted because I had to pay to come over it, but that's the way cricket, that's the way that the cookie crumbles, you know.
I must say, we can understand the disappointment of the crowd here because they paid, as Frank said, an awful lot of money to come here, Jim. But would you have any, in fact, I think you said that the referee was right in doing what he did.
Yeah, I think he was right. The referee took his time about making the decision. He was looking into Williams' eyes as he completed the count. He gave a second or so when the count was completed. He actually asked Williams, was he okay? Williams gave a kind of lifeless shrug. There wasn't enough life about Williams to allow him to continue. He did the right thing. It's a bit of a tragedy. Nobody likes a first-round knockout in a World Championship, but it doesn't do the sport an awful lot of good. But full credit to the champion, a tremendous punch that he finished about with.
There was no time really to assess the form of Carl the Truth Williams, was there really? I mean, in fact, how do you think he started the fight in the first minute?
Well, I worried about his temperament beforehand. I thought there was a possibility he would freeze. But his temperament, in my opinion, did let him down, but not the way I expected it to let him down. I think he went out to try to prove how brave he was, how he wasn't intimidated, and his tactics were all wrong. He should have been spending the first couple of rounds trying to stop Tyson from working, trying to maybe lay on, hold him, just to get himself into a rhythm. But he started too quick, started trading with Tyson, and that's just suicide.
Frank, do you fancy another crack at Mike Tyson now after that?
In London, yes, I would love another crack, Dickie.
Do you think that's going to happen?
I'm not too sure. I think you got to ask Mrs. Thatcher that question.
Does she have the answer?
I'm not too sure. I think you got to ask 1 or 2 other people that question. I'm not too sure at the moment, Dickie.
I think he was talking about a possible fight with people like Jose Ribalta and James Buster Douglas, but Evander Holyfield would seem to be perhaps the best and most legitimate contender.
I think there's a lot of management sort of like wranglings going on there because Don King doesn't really want to do business with Dan Duva, and his contract runs out in 1992, so I think they're going to wait for Holyfield and build it up. Like
1991.
No, 1991, sorry, Dickie. And wait until his contract runs out then, so they can do business and build it up like the Spinks fight to make a million or multi-billion-dollar fight, you know, so I think that that's not in the pipeline at this moment in time.
Frank, thank you very much indeed. Jim, thank you very much indeed for the time. We're going to take a short break, but you be sure we'll be back in Atlantic City in just a few moments.